Did you know Smoky Unit would knurl pistons to make more power?
Okay, let's see it.
Did you know that a knurled piston can make more power? Did you know this is Smoky Unit's piston knurler? Well, actually, it's ours now, but this came from Smoky himself, and check that out. So we're doing a knurl just like Smoky would do. We'll even knurl brand new pistons. This is a street stock engine, and what we want to do is we want to stabilize the piston to get the best ring seal. So, all right, knurling isn't just like back in the day for an old worn out cylinder. Knurling can also be for brand new pistons on a street stock engine. So it doesn't have to be for an old worn out engine. All right, tip of the day.
So I seen this video and I thought it would be worth a mention about the piston knurling, because I just remember back in the old days when I first started working in the machine shop, we had a piston knurler, right? And so here's the problem. Just cause really smart people did something doesn't make it correct, right? For instance, somebody in the cam grinding world that I highly respect has a whole, tech articles, and in one of their tech articles, they say that more exhaust duration are the same intake and exhaust duration will always make more torque. And we know for a fact through many people's testing that just absolutely is not true. So just cause somebody that you hold in high regard does something or says something doesn't make it true. And the problem with this is that this whole piston knurling thing is most people just don't understand how a piston skirt profile is designed. So, and the only reason that I know is just because I've studied this topic some, and we actually manufacture, not anymore, but we used to manufacture lots of pistons for industrial applications. So I have a piston grinder, and we can actually grind a profile on the piston skirt. So a piston isn't round or straight. So if you look at a piston in the area they're knurling, that area, top to bottom, is tapered this way, and it has cam. So the center is higher than the sides. It falls away at the sides. And so what piston manufacturers have done as time goes by is they have learned that the piston grows in this way at temperature. So as the piston grows, that's why it has cam taper. So the profile is right at temperature. And so that holds the piston square in the bore. And so the issue is when you come and disrupt that profile, you're actually creating problems, not solving them. And the crazy thing is the pistons in question were cast. So a cast piston uses little to no skirt clearance anyway. I mean, we're talking late model stuff with, again, this is all relative to the skirt profile. I mean, those were old cheapy, long skirt pistons, so they don't have a stability problem anyway with them big old long skirts. But when you get into later model stuff with really short skirts, the clearance, because the skirt is so short, the clearance gets less and less and less. Some of the late model stuff, I mean, they're calling for like 8/10 clearance. I mean, there's not much wobble. And again, even at these normal old piston clearances with big rings, there is no ring seal problem. Um, I mean, they're just, I mean, we have blow by meters on dynos. I mean, this stuff can be measured, right? So this is not guessing. I mean, this is measurable data that is just one more box to check. And so the skirt profile is the skirt profile. And quality pistons generally have a proper skirt profile for their application, and there should be no issues. And again, if the piston is moving around a bunch and the clearance is correct, you would see that in the skirt when you take the motor apart. And when we take stuff apart, we generally, unless it's been hot or just some severe craziness or the clearance is wrong, you generally just don't see any real issues with the skirt. I mean, it's generally the wear looks good and there's no crazy problems. Another issue is, and again, keep in mind that, if you've seen the profile, piston on its side, I mean, it's wide this way, right? So the knurl is going to be, because the skirt isn't round or straight. So the knurl is going to be deeper toward the end of the skirt than toward the ring land. And the knurl is also going to be deeper in the center of the skirt than it is on the wrist pin sides, because it has ovality to it. It's a cam shape. So when you knurl, you're just making the big part bigger and the little part less bigger, right? So, and not only that, if you noticed, it was a 70-year-old piston knurler, and the chuck was solid rust, and the jaws were solid rust. So good and well that chuck does not have concentricity. I mean, and it's got this big bale center coming up. And I'm just saying that all of that together is just an absolute mess. It's not doing anything productive and probably creating 3 more problems than it solved. And just like knurling valve guides or any of that stuff, it's a Band-Aid at best, because there's no surface area. And if you're trying to make something stable, you need surface area to do that. 30 little peaks that's going to rub off. And that's probably the only reason that it's not really hurting anything bad, is because it's just little bitty peaks and they get rubbed off, and then it's kind of back to the original skirt profile anyway. So that's probably the saving grace. But if I was going to be doing something, and if you've seen the block at the end, the decks look like garbage. If I was going to be doing something, I would spend my efforts in making my block work be all it could be, and making my cylinders all they could be, with correct crosshatch profiles and tolerances, and make sure my decks are flat and have a proper surface finish for the head gaskets to seal. I think a lot of times people get hyper focused on these peripheral stuff that just doesn't really amount to anything, and they miss all the stuff that actually does matter. And I think that's the bigger deal. So, don't get broke down about, all of these crazy anomalies that you see on the internet, because a lot of this stuff is just, unfortunately, it's just smoke and mirrors. And it's just taking you away from the main stuff. And if you're going to do something to make a motor be, sealed up, focus on quality machine work, quality parts, and clean and proper assembly practices. And that's going to go 100 miles farther than, some super secret stuff that somebody did back in the 60s just cause they had it in their mind that it made it better. And again, back in the 60s, the skirt profiles weren't as refined as they are today. And back in the 60s, aluminum wasn't as the mixture, right? The batches weren't as good as they are today. So people probably were running way more clearance than they should have been running. And the pistons may or may not have been as thermally stable as they are today. But we regularly run cast pistons at 1 to 1.5 clearance on most normal street stuff. And so at 1 to 1.5 clearance, that piston is not moving around, and it surely doesn't need any knurling to help it. So hopefully that helps. But I seen that, and it's popped up a couple of times in my feed, and I just thought it might be worth addressing because you see all kind of crazy stuff on the internet. So, all right, thanks so much. We'll see you on the next one.